All right, everyone. Thank you for joining us. This is Dominica Escatel, your host. And I have one of my favorite people in the world, Jannette Sabathia. I've been dying to talk to her because we have some real, raw, authentic conversation that needs to happen. And before we dive in, let me start off by just sharing what we're doing here. So, we have conversations with different women in the community, just some real, like I mentioned earlier, real, raw, authentic, because many times we don't get the opportunity to be that transparent, like we would be with someone that's really close or our mothers or whoever is in that circle of influence that you just know that you won't be judged. And so this is what we're cultivating here. And so today I have asked Jannette Sabathia to come and join us for this conversation. And we're going to dive in, and I'm going to have Jannette introduce herself. Jannette.
Hello, I am Jannette Sabathia. I am a registered nurse at Doctors Hospital in Modesto. I work in the neonatal intensive care with the tiny, tiny little babies. I also am an entrepreneur. I have a blog that I work on. Not so much now, but I do have a blog. And I'm a mother, single mother. My son is 24. He'll be 25 in July. And what else? I'm just a really nice person.
And I can testify to that for sure. So, Jannette, we're just going to dive into this conversation. We have lots of things to talk about. There's a lot of things going on in this country. But what's at the forefront of it, amongst many things, right, is currently COVID-19. And with you being in the medical field, I would love to just start out by you just sharing a little bit of the forecast and giving some insight in what you've seen at the hospital. Any tips that you can give us? How do you feel about gatherings kind of happening, in the community and people not protecting themselves? Like, give us your insight.
Okay, so I'm going to start off with number one. When they first started talking about COVID, I was like, it's the flu. It's just the flu. But when people really start getting sick and I started reading about it and studying about it, it was not just the flu. It's some terrible stuff. I think that we as a community need to we need to protect our elders, our older people, our grandmothers, our aunts, our uncles, the people 65 and older, the people that are older than us, because this can affect them very badly. They are right now lifting a lot of the visiting policies at the hospital, because when we were in what we thought was the midst of it, if you were in the hospital, unless you were a baby or a little kid, you did not have visitors. None. Unless they felt you were getting ready to die, then they would let somebody come visit you or sit with you. But other than that, you were there by yourselves. So now everybody is wanting to get out. That's fine. But as for me, I still feel that it's kind of soon. People are not protecting themselves. Social distancing, they say that's too much. Okay. I see people wearing gloves in public. I do not like that. That just sends me over the edge because it's nasty. It is nasty. Because look at it this way. So you're leaving out of your house. You have on a pair of gloves. So then you get in your car. Did you clean off your car thing? No. So you get in your car, you have on your gloves, and you're driving. So everything you have on your gloves is on your steering wheel. So then you go get some gas. You still have on your gloves. You get out, you touch the handle to get the gas. Who touched that before you? If you didn't, you might have cleaned it off, but you probably didn't. So now you didn't touch that. Then you didn't touch the touch pad for your credit card, or you went in and you touched the door. So all this stuff is still on that same glove. So then you get back in your car. So you touch the door handle. Now you touch your steering wheel, and you know you're going to touch your phone. So you got all this stuff on it. So then you get out the car and you go to Costco. So well, they do give you something to wipe your cart down, but you wipe down the cart, but then you touch it with your gloves. So you just put everything that's on your gloves, from the handle, the phone. Now all that's on there, and everything you touch, has everything. So you touch everything in Costco that has everything you already touched. So then you go back to your house and you take all that stuff out. If we're lucky, the people still have the gloves on. Some people leave their gloves in the trash. Some leave them in the cart. Some leave them on the ground. And that sends me over the edge as well. But anyway, that's a whole different talk. So I think if you're going to wear gloves, you need to change them intermittently. Yes, people at the hospital, yes, we do wear gloves, but we change them. If we go in Susie's room, when we come out of Susie's room, we're taking those gloves off and we're sanitizing our hands, getting some new gloves, and we go see Mary, do what we got to do. So we're changing our gloves often. If you're going to change them often, that's good. And even to make me feel better, if you use a little hand sanitizer on them every now and then. But so then that's another talk show. Okay. So then wearing the mask, people are like, it doesn't protect you. It's not doing anything. Well, you should wear a mask because it helps keep your spit particles from someone else and theirs from reaching you. You have a barrier there. And it cracks me up. You're infringing on my rights. Okay. Well, let's see. Costco is a public entity. They have the right to refuse service to anyone. When you go to the the restaurant, and they say no shirt, no shoes, no service, do you argue with them about your rights? No, you put on a shirt, you put on some shoes, and you get your service, or you don't go in. So why is it you think that you could go to Costco or any other store that are private entities and they reserve the right to well, you know what I'm saying? They don't have to serve you because that's their business.
Yes.
Let's be respectful of other people. Do you know what? I wear a mask 12 flipping hours a day. Sometimes I feel like I'm going to pass out from this mask, but I do it because it protects me. It helps protect the babies that I work with, and it helps to protect the people that I work with. Do I like doing it? No. So if you're going to the freaking store, put on the mask and shut up.
Bottom line.
Just wear it.
Yes.
And there are different types of masks. You can get the homemade mask. Then they have some masks that have rebreathers, which I would really like to get me one of those. So when you're breathing out, you have more air coming in. They have those little things on the side. That'd be something good to invest in. Yes. If you're just really feeling like you can't breathe. And that reminds me of something else we're going to talk about. But anyway, so in my mind, I have a 100-year-old dad. I have not seen my dad in person since March 13th. He lives in the Bay Area where it is the hotbed of COVID-19. They are still, the last I heard, they're still in shelter in place. And I'm just thinking, I really I want to go see him, but I don't want to take something unknowingly from my house, from the hospital to him to make him sick.
Right.
The other side is he has people, the people that work for him in and out of his house. I don't want to bring that here and take it to the hospital to the babies. So it's a very interesting time for me. I'm not afraid. A lot of people say, God will protect you. Well, God gave us some common sense. And he also,
say it.
I trust him implicitly, but he also gave me a brain to think with.
Right.
So if you're going to be close around people who basically, they didn't shelter in place at all. They were always at the store. They were always at their friend's house. They're around little kids, and little kids do get sick and they cough and they do this. Then they may have something and not know it. So I kind of stay at the house. Now, I did go out today for a wedding, but I left because I looked around and everybody was all up on one another. I got a little nervous.
Okay.
So I set
And
off.
do you mean like dancing or the sitting
No,
close?
they didn't social distance the seats. The seats were like this, and people were sitting close together. And I'm like, no. So I set off to the side. And after the service was over, I, talked to the bride and told her how, I can't stay. But when you give your word to someone, so that's how I feel about that. But as far as going to church, no. Mm-mm. I don't know if anybody's seen The Color Purple, and Whoopi Goldberg is Celie, and she sits like this, watching everybody outside. That's me.
Yeah.
Y'all go out. I'm gonna see what happens.
Right.
And the other thing is, I think people are confused. They think because everything is opening that COVID is over. That's not why it's opening. It's opening because some people want to make money. And I can see both sides of it.
Right.
The economy does need to open up. People do need to get back to work. But at what point is your health going to be better than the economy being better? And there's so many different theories out there. It makes my head swim as about, well, it's not really, it's what did they, it's a conspiracy. This ain't no conspiracy. Too many people done died. It's just the flu. You have over 100,000 people who have died in 5 months. And you want to tell me it's just the flu?
Well, that New York Times cover with all the names, did you come across that? Did you see it going around?
I missed that.
Yes, on social media, it was going around the cover of New York Times with a massive list of people who have passed through COVID because of COVID-19. And so if that alone does not like reach your soul, like I don't know what will. And I don't understand how the conversation has been given like this is a theory, this is fake, this is not real, when
the numbers are inflated.
Right.
But what really bothers me with the theories and stuff, here's the deal. When you say that it's not real, you're being disrespectful and dishonoring the people who have died and their families. You're dishonoring the nurses and the doctors, and especially the respiratory therapists who have put their lives on the line to save or to help save these people. I've been broke before, but I ain't never been dead. So I'd rather be broke and alive. I got into a heated discussion one day at work when one of my coworkers told me, oh, they're inflating the numbers. They have people in hospice who they couldn't have possibly died from COVID, and they get money for the numbers. I was like, really?
Wow.
But to say that it's not real, that'll get me going every time. Because like I said, you're dishonoring people who have put their lives on the line to take care of sick people.
Right.
So as far as my job and taking care of COVID patients, I'm going to be honest, I work with the tiny babies. Mm-hmm. And thank God we haven't had any COVID babies. We have had a couple of mothers who have tested positive for COVID. And so when the babies are born, we take them right away. And then we kind of quarantine them. But so far, we have not had to do that. So we're lucky. I'm kind of like a background singer in this whole thing.
Right. Yeah. Well, you know what? It provides some insight, especially in this community, because it's one thing to see it through the news and through the eyes of somebody who's living it, but when you have someone that's living it day to day locally, and they can say like, look, these are the precautions that we're doing. This is what it looks like right now. You know, it does provide insight. And if you are listening or watching and you're thinking, no, I'm not one of those people that Jannette's talking about, but here's the thing, that they exist. And so the more you know, the more you can educate someone that you come across. Because I remember I was at a grocery store not that long ago, and I didn't notice this incident that happened. But after I got home, I was with my mom, and she told me, and she said, you know, there was a family that was getting a cart, and you know, when they had gloves on and they sanitized it, and then you know, the kids were pushing it, we're helping the parent push the cart. And then all of a sudden, one of the children, who was probably under 10, decides to take off the gloves and throw them in the middle of the French bread. So I don't know if any of you have been to the grocery store that has that warm, hot, amazing French bread. And bam, it was right in the middle of the stand. And the parents didn't notice. And so when my mom was telling me about this, when we got home, we immediately called the grocery store, and I went in the next day and the stand was dismantled, you know. And it's like, not only do you have to like be concerned about yourself and your kids, but it needs to also be taken one step further and just kind of like monitored as you're going, you know, around, because, you know, the little ones being in the classroom for so long, you know, they get impatient, they forget. And, you know, I don't blame that child for purposely doing that. It was just probably a instinct or just a reaction, and without thinking. And there was probably no trash can around, and it was just easy to kind of like fling them. Maybe the kids were playing. And unfortunately, it cost the store a whole display of French bread. Wow. And who knows who got these French breads, you know, in the period that they were dismantling and that they found out about the French bread, you know. And I can think of countless times that I've been in the grocery store. You know, I'm trying to minimally not go to different places, but when I have, I've seen gloves in the cart.
Yeah.
You know,
gloves on the cart, gloves on the ground. And it's like, you threw that glove in the cart. You threw that glove on the ground. Who the heck did you think was going to pick it up?
Okay, that's another thing.
Yes. My hat goes off to the essential workers, because, I mean, they put up with a lot of mess, a lot of lip from people. Right. These last 4 months, and it has not been easy for them. But they show up, they do what they're supposed to do. I remember I went to Safeway one day, and I think it was the assistant manager, and I was looking for something, and she was very helpful and very nice, but it was something about her that told me she was not having a good day, but she was smiling through it. So I just told her, you know, things will get better. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here goes a long way for essential workers.
Right.
A long way. Yes, they do have, they want to provide for their family, but sometimes being an essential worker does not mean I have to take all your crap.
Right.
Period.
And Jannette, tell me, I don't think we've ever talked about this. Really, what was the spark that got you in your field? Because I'm sure in your career, you never really anticipated the things that you've been through. And so, like, tell me a little bit of like how you got there, being from Oakland.
You know, when I was thinking about a career, what I wanted to do, it was about, okay, so what can I do that will always be around? So I first started, I wanted to be an X-ray technologist, then a sonographer, ultrasound tech. And then I said, I could go into nursing. Okay. So when I went to college, I went to San Jose State. It was not easy. Not
Did
easy.
You know I went there too?
Yeah, I remember you told me that. I think you forgot I told you I went there.
I think I forgot. Yeah.
Yeah, I went to San Jose State, and I stayed in Markham Hall,
Okay.
the dorm on South 10th Street, across
Yes.
from the bookstore. All that stuff is gone now.
Right.
Because that was long time ago. Anyway, so I started in the nursing program, but before I got in the nursing program, I had to take all the prerequisites. I just want to take this time to tell people too. It's not where you start, but it's where you finish.
Correct.
I am not, as far as sciences and all that stuff, I was never the brightest bulb on the tree, but I never gave up. I had to take chemistry, all the chemistries twice, so you had chemistry A, 30A, 30B. I had to take both those twice.
Okay.
Microbiology twice, anatomy and physiology twice. So from that, I don't give up.
Right.
And then the state boards, because I'm just not a good test taker. That's just not my thing. State boards, I had to take that more than once. However, I'm gonna tell you, I'm a good nurse though. I'm good at what I do. I love my babies because I work with babies. I've been working with them since 1990.
Wow, girl.
You know how you just find your niche?
Yes.
Because I was like, didn't like adults anymore. And when they brought no, because it is
Well,
so
I know we can get into that. I know we can so dive into that one statement.
Babies don't talk back to you.
Yeah.
So, and the way my personality, it is just amazing that I was an adult nurse for so long.
Okay.
So I get along with the babies really well because they comply. Okay. I like to be in control.
Well, I'm glad they do.
We'll just leave it at that. But yeah, I got into nursing, and even before I graduated, I was trying to find something else different to do with a nursing degree. I was like, oh, I could be a pharmaceutical sales rep, but that never panned out. But right now, I love what I do. I work 2 days a week, 2 12-hour shifts a week. And if I want to work extra, I can, but I have a schedule that is like amazing. I have a mini vacation every 2 weeks. I have a son. I was able to work my job part-time and raise him, but I do have a side hustle though. But basically, that sustained us, and I'm doing okay.
Yeah. Did you have any mentors?
When I worked, this is so funny. When I first had my first in-hospital nursing job,
okay,
I worked in Oakland at Highland Hospital, which is the county hospital.
Okay.
And a lot of people look like me over there. A lot of them. So there was a nurse, Betty Tate, and she still sends me a Christmas card every year.
Wow.
She was a head nurse there. Well, charge nurse is what they call them. She was in charge a lot. And then there was another one. I can't remember her first name, and I see her face, but her last name is Stenhouse. Okay. Those two women, we worked on the same shift, and they basically groomed me to be the person that I am.
Love that.
And it's funny when you're, as people of color, when you don't see people who look like you don't think you can do it.
Right.
Period. But when
repeat that statement.
When you don't see people who look like you don't think you can do it.
Right.
So every time I get a chance to go talk at career day at one of these junior high schools or elementary schools in my neighborhood, I go, because those kids, that was me. We didn't live in a rich neighborhood. We didn't live in a poor neighborhood, but you need to see people who are doing something.
Yes. Yes.
Not just basketball, not just football, nurses, doctors, respiratory therapists, something. Even, medical field is good, but just to see somebody who is successful at what they do, and they're happy at doing it, because there's a lot of successful people, but they're just doing a job.
Right.
And there's a difference.
Yeah. I love asking that question because I think it's important to know. And it's mind-blowing to me that you said as an adult, when you stepped into your career, that that's where you found mentors. And I think it's amazing that you did, right? Because you're attributing them to where you're at right now. And I share that in common with you, with that it wasn't till my adulthood, and it was people in my work environment, my women that looked like me in my work environment, that kind of rose up and became an unnamed mentor, where I first, met someone that looked like me, and that I thought and I knew, like, wow, like I want to be her when I grow up. Like, look at the accomplishment she has. Like, she was, in my head, she's success. She's success. But as I grew older, I realized, like, wow, I was shortchanged. Like, how many of us didn't have that figure, that person, until we were adults versus when we were younger,
Yeah.
So I love getting context with a person who has dedicated so many years in a field that has made an impact the way that you have, and to be able to share that wow, you had grit in your will to succeed, that even taking classes, a couple of times. Like, I share that also. Mathematics, I struggled with math so much. I repeated it a couple of times until I was able to transfer. But again, going back to that mentor, I didn't know I can go and get tutored. I didn't know where at the college, where I can get help. But, you were able to just get over it, get over that hump, that obstacle, and just do it. So I love that.
And one thing, when you talk to younger people or people who are coming up behind you, always tell them, because I tell the kids at the school, okay, so do you know what you want to be? They don't know. Okay, think about what you want to be. And so most of the junior high, they're in 8th grade. So the next year's 9th grade, first year of high school. I said, okay, your first assignment when you get to high school on the day of orientation is to find out who your learning director is.
Mm-hmm.
You need to find out who your learning director is, and you need to tell your learning director, I am going to college. I need to take these classes from my A through G or A through F, and I need to be on track. And you need to be like the last piece of sand coming out there behind when they're getting off the beach as far as your goals, because there's nothing worse than getting to the 11th grade and finding out, oh, I need 3 years of Spanish. You don't have 3 years.
Right.
You only got 1, 2 now. So what you going to do? Now you're knocked out of your A through F. So, yeah, we need to, and they need to know that there are resources, that they can have tutors, that they can have whatever they need. They just need to ask for it. It's available to them.
Yes. No,
there's a lot of programs that people don't know about. But if you ask your counselor or your learning director, as they call them, they should be able to point you in the right direction.
Right. No, that's an amazing tip. Jannette, so tell me a little bit of your experience starting out in Oakland and then being in the field there versus being in the field here years later in this community.
This is so funny. So in Oakland, I started out at a county hospital.
Okay.
Alameda County Hospital. So that's where more of the lower socioeconomic people go. Okay. So for them to have an evening snack or a midnight snack, it's not like it is here at Doctors. It was a total culture shock when I came to Doctors Hospital. Total. So, okay, so I worked at Highland for about maybe 2 years. And then we moved here. When we moved here, I didn't even try to commute back and forth. I got a job at Doctors Hospital. My first week on the job, I buddied up with someone. And so I was on the cardiac floor. And so we go round, we do our rounds. And so there's a room full of people. And the nurse who I was working with, she's like, okay, would you guys like something to drink? And I'm looking at her like, what? She's offering the people in the room, not the patient, but the people in the room and the patient. They could have coffee, they could have juice, they could have whatever they wanted. And I'm thinking, this just didn't happen where I came from, period. If the person got there, if they were diabetic and they got their evening snack, they were lucky.
Right.
Because the kitchen was not stocked like that. You had to get it from dietary, and dietary may bring it and dietary may not. But to have a fully stocked refrigerator and just be hostess to all these people, I was like, oh, hell no.
Wow.
I had to, and it was one day the lady came out and she said, can I get a da-da-da-da-da? And I had opened my mouth to say something, and I guess the lady knew. She said, I'll get it right away. I'm looking at for real? Because I was like, are you strictly back to Oakland? Are you a patient? That was my, but no. So it was a big old culture shock for me to come here. And basically, there were not that many people of color that worked at doctors in Modesto. Still not, but I've had to deal with that. But anyway, that's another talk show. So that was one thing. Coming from a county hospital to a private hospital.
Yes.
From seeing people that look like me to people that don't look like me, and having to assimilate and have to prove myself. You always have to prove yourself. You always have to prove that you are just as good as the next nurse, because they don't know what you know. So it's been even today, sometimes I still have to prove myself, but I don't care. I know what I know. Right. That's your question.
Well, you know what? It's something that is necessary to ask, I believe, because it's these things you don't figure out till you're in the middle of them, right? And so I know that with your career, and then knowing that you came from Oakland and you shifted to Modesto, those are two different worlds. And you pointed out something very, very important that, many of our listeners or viewers, probably not so much now, but maybe even just a couple years ago, 10 or 20, really there wasn't a lot of people of color in these fields. And as time goes by, you even acknowledge, there's still a lot of work that needs to be done, and then if we get into peg equity, that right there is a whole nother episode. But we won't touch on that today, but there's many factors that contribute to, also, retention of staff as well. That's a whole other thing.
That's a big thing right now, retention.
Right. And that's important to ask. That should be an embedded, known thing that you need to ask when you're applying for a job. No matter what the field looks like, is how does your retention look like? And what is the ratio of people of color?
Yeah.
Right? Because it makes a difference. All that makes a difference in how well your work environment feels to you, and I'm a firm believer that we spend a good chunk of our life with our coworkers and in that work environment. And if you don't love it, it's not going to feel good to you.
Good. It's not good for you. You got to find, it's just like we have another hospital that came in from across town. It pays better. It does, but it's a totally different vibe, totally different. Right. So, a lot of our nurses have left from all areas, but especially our area, to go over there. And they're afraid, or they don't want us to know that they're going. And I'm like, you got to do what's right for you and your family. If that means you're going across the way and you're working over there, then hey, hit it. Take it. But don't come back crying about, oh, it's not a family, it's not this, it's not that. You made a choice. And I can't be mad at you if that's what you want to do. To be honest, right about now, I'm too old to change. I got good seniority. I got a great schedule, and I can tough it out for another 6 years if need be.
Well, girl, here's the thing. It's those factors are important when you're making decisions when opportunities arise, right?
Yeah.
And you have to know, you have to be conscious that sometimes, even though there's a shift in pay, it may not be the best decision because of the team you're in or external factors of your leadership team. There's many things that I learned the hard way that no one told me because I didn't have that person to give me advice. And so I love that you're touching on that. And actually, I don't think we ever furthered our conversation a couple of months ago. I remember you mentioning that you struggled a little bit when you were approached to join a local community board that did a lot of work for the underserved communities out in South Modesto. So you would talked a little bit about also that when you hit a peak in your career, that there's different ways that you can get involved in your community to really give back in a different way and also honor all the years that you put into your profession and bring that to the table in a whole different environment. So can you speak a little bit on that?
Yeah, there's I did actually join the board.
Okay.
However, sometimes I don't even know how to put this, but there's a lot of different personalities.
Yes.
And a few of the people have been on there for a long time and they're older.
Okay.
And they don't want to budge.
Yes.
And it's hard to bring some people from 1980 to 1959, bring them with you to 2020 because they're crying, they're just not trying to have it.
Right.
However, I think that as time goes on, because we kind of hit a little snag because of COVID, some of the things that we were planning to do, we can't do them because we can't, we just can't do it. So I think I'm just like getting my feet wet with it and seeing some of the things that I would like to do. So I can't really speak on how's it going because it's not really going.
Right. Well, yeah, no, which is important to recognize, right? That also when you're getting involved in the community and considering choosing a board to sit on, or maybe you were invited and you want to learn more about it, there's many, as just like the work environment, there's also those same factors that go to a board. But whether it's an association of the field that you're in or a board or whatever that looks like, I think that it's a big deal that you even stepped out of that comfort zone and decided to explore that and, went to this different event and didn't know people. And I think that's important to mention because that's like the next step in any career, right?
Mm-hmm. But here's the deal. This is what I learned from you. I may or may not put it into practice, but I have learned from you. Now I can work a room when I want to work a room. I know that. I can work that room, but I've watched you go into settings where you may or may not have known people, and you're like, "Hi, how are you? I'm Dominica." Da 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 da. And I'm striving to be that person, not to just do it when I want to, but for that to be me all the time, because you never know who's in the room.
Right.
You never know who in the room needs someone to come say something to them. And you never know what you can learn or what you can give to another person. It's all about opening up your mouth, not being afraid, and just work that room, not just one time, but all the time. Because like I said, you never know. I'm gonna be honest, I've lived in this area for 30 plus years. I don't know. I know some people, but I don't know a lot of people in the community. I have people say, well, you know, so and so and such and such. No. Mm-mm. Well, you know, no. And so I'm just getting to learn some people. And so I'm like, you wait till you're like 60 some years old to find out who so and so is. So, you know,
yeah, that's the reality for some people. That I mean, I didn't learn to get involved in the community from my parents. You know, I didn't really grow up knowing anybody, talking about different community members until I became an adult and started to network. You know, it wasn't something that was natural that happened. It just was a suggestion to me, and I thought, oh, all right, I'll go check this out. And you know, just kind of naturally evolved through there. But girl, you're busy saving babies' lives. You know,
I have a question for you, though. I have a question for you.
Yeah. Okay.
So when I first moved here, I was married. And I was the one, I'll just say his name. Are you going to do such and such with so-and-so? Oh, it depends on what Jeff says. Are you saving for, oh, it depends on what Jeff says. I was all up Jeff's, you know what? I wasn't me. I was like his appendage. And so that was late 20s, early 30s. So that was part of my life that I could have been doing something, but I wasn't. And so then I had my son. And so it was all about him for like 16 to 18 years. So, you know, if they weren't playing soccer or if they weren't doing whatever he was doing, karate or whatever, I didn't know the people. Right. And then some of them people I didn't know. But I see you, do you feel like if you were married that you would be as involved in the community as you are?
You know what? I do not know how to answer that question.
Okay.
I know that my path with some of the things that I've completed probably would not have took place if I were married, and not because I feel that he would have been a hindrance to me, just being consciously aware of growing up with a traditional Latino father, you know, and my household is the dynamic of, you know, the wife stays at home and cooks, although I did have a working mother seasonally in the cannery. But overall, the dynamic is, you know, my father left, he came back, he ate and went to sleep. That is what it looked like. And so I label that a traditional, you know, Latino Mexican home. And because I grew up and saw that, I know that if I were married, I am certain that being involved in the community would have not stopped me because I was married. So in a sense, I guess I could answer that question, you know, hypothetically.
But then I guess if we think about it, it also depends on the type of man that you marry too.
Right. Because nothing says that I could have chosen wisely and ended up with someone who I didn't know. You know, I don't know what dynamic would have looked like if I would have chosen to be married a lot younger. You know, life happens, and it's funny because when I see relatives, and this is not everybody, I'm picturing who exactly this is in my head. You know, it's not Dominica, you know, tell me about, you know, your recent speaking engagement on Harvard, or tell me about when I saw you in the paper in the Modesto Bee for your award, you know, or tell me when you went to Los Angeles and was knocking on doors for Kamala Harris and Dianne Feinstein. No, it's nothing of that. It's, are you dating anybody?
Yeah.
What did you
Yeah, yeah.
right?
When you gonna get married?
Yeah. And I just, and here's the thing is that I accept the calling in my life, and this is what it looks like. This is what it needed to look like. And if I'm serving people and making someone's life better, I am happy. And when the universe, God decides to shift my life into that direction, I'm going to welcome it. But till then, I have work to do. and, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah. I think we are the type of women who have figured out that it's nice to have someone, but you don't necessarily have to have someone where you're settling because you have to have someone because someone said you had to have someone.
Right.
And
yes. And I see that as the revolution against conformity in a sense. And now I don't say that as, conforming to society's standards of a woman should be married and have kids. It's not that. It's just the revolution of always pushing on my life and striving to do something more to help others. Because what is our existence? What does our existence mean if we're not here to make someone's life better? Even as simply as telling your story, which is how this whole speaker series started, or mini sessions, is there was a quote, and this is not my quote. I do not remember who said it. I don't even remember if somebody told it to me or if it was a TED Talk. I don't know. It was as you tell your story, you have the key to unlock someone else's prison as you tell your story. And so when I heard that was so profound to me, because it was like a light bulb went off. I can use my pain for power. I can turn that around and run with it. And yes, a lot of shitty stuff has happened in my life, but you know what? I'm going to use that for good. And if it helps someone else to provide context or live a better life, then why not? Then there was purpose in it. Yeah. And I know things we can't control that are tragic and tragedies and things that people have gone through that don't have a name to it. But I always try to lead with the thought that you can extract the gift in it. Some of the most powerful books that I've read are people who have written exactly what happened to them in a sense of needing to heal, and also with the thought of helping somebody else.
Another thing is sometimes we as a community, we as people, we as women, things happen to us and we don't talk about it.
Right.
By talking about it, we help someone else to know that, oh, that happened to so-and-so and she lived. She did fine. And not only that, oh, this is what I can do to help me get out of that.
Right.
Or just little things like, I don't know, women of my age that I know in my circle, they don't talk about a lot of stuff. So I learned stuff from the younger girls at work.
Well, here's the thing. I think that we have an opportunity to flip the narrative, because I think if you peel back the layers of the onion, there's more to it also, is that not only talking about it is important, but also being able to come and support each other through it. Whether it be an issue or a business, like there's many facets to it, but I believe that what we're doing now is rewriting that narrative, and it starts by talking about it.
Yeah, you got to talk about stuff. People they're afraid to talk about different things. They're afraid to bring it up, or he or she's going to think I'm strange if I say this. Just put it out there.
Right.
And if they think you strange, too bad. Keep it moving.
Right. So, Jannette, yes. Our conversation has been so good, but our time is almost up. And I
Okay.
feel like we can dive in with another session. So I think we should definitely set another session up because we've hit so many points that we can elaborate on. I think it's worth talking about, and especially with you being in the medical field and touching on some things of being a woman of color in the medical field. And personally and professionally, I would love to hear more about that. So I thank you for your willingness and openness to share a space together and just have some real, raw, authentic conversation. And what's fun about this is that it always looks different. Sometimes it gets so heated and passionate, and sometimes we're joking and laughing, and it just depends. But I think that you have a lot to say. I have a lot to say. So we're going to wrap it up because we're running out of time, but we're going to leave you, all of you that are listening and viewing at the cliffhanger of at the edge of, I need to hear more of what Jannette is wanting to say. So tell us, how can our listeners and viewers connect with you on social media?
I have, it's on Instagram, and that's mytruth.com/Instagram. And on Facebook, same thing. And that's my truth, all one word. So that's where I am.
And that's also the name of your blog.
And the name of my blog, and that's my truth.
Be sure to subscribe. All right, listeners, viewers, thank you for joining us. And we are signing out. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.